Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to be talking about UFC Vegas 70, Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann, because it's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Two of the most potent finishers in the light heavyweight division going at it in the main event, because we got Nikita Krylov, who's 29-9, taking on Ryan Spann, who was 21-7. And currently, they got it. Nikita Krylov minus 170. The comeback on Ryan Spann is plus 145. So I just want to say something off the rip. You know, it's easy to sit here and, you know, talk about how these two guys are these big finishers and this and that. And, you know, some people might think it's hyperbole, but it's not. I mean, when we talk about Krylov, 29 wins. Out of those 29 wins, how many of those do you think are finishes? It's actually 27 of his 29 wins have come inside the distance. And with Ryan Spann, of his 21 wins, how many of those you think are finishes? 18 of Ryan Spann's 21 wins are finishes. So, I mean, let's check what the fight doesn't go the distance line is real quick out of curiosity. Yeah, okay. So fight doesn't go the distance right now. I mean, you're looking at minus 1,100 on FanDuel. You're looking at minus 700 on Bet Online. You know what's funny? On bestfightodds.com, if you look at the props, under Caesars, it has fight goes decision like minus like 50,000 or something. It has fight doesn't go to decision plus 8,000. Those are obviously fake lines, but I know there's going to be at least one fucking person who tracks like that fight doesn't go to decision plus 8,000 on their thing. Don't be that guy, okay? Do not be that guy. But let's talk about this main event, because this is unbelievable. I mean, literally, Nikita Krylov has been in the UFC a long ass time. This is actually his second stint with the company, and it's his first ever UFC main event. Ryan Spann got to do a main event before Nikita Krylov, so it's good to see a guy in Nikita who has been like a hardcore fan's favorite for a very, very long time, and it's because of how this guy fights. I mean, he really is kill or be killed. Like, it wasn't until, I believe, the Glover Teixeira fight, which we're talking 32 fights deep into Nikita's career, that he finally went to a decision. And then he goes to a decision his very next fight against Johnny Walker, and then his very next fight against Magomed And, you know, besides the Volkan fight, those are the only decisions that Nikita's ever been to, ever. So Nikita's a guy that he's got kind of a Kyokushin karate background standing. So you're going to see these interesting combinations where you're going to see a punch with the right hand followed by a head kick with the right leg. You're going to see punches with the left hand followed by kicks with the left. It's basically same side punches, same side kicks. He's got this thing called the windmill where he's very economical in his motions of how he strings his punches to his kicks. But then, I mean, this is not Kyokushin karate. This is MMA. He's able to go in there, mix in entries to those takedowns. And when this guy gets on top of you, I mean, he's got very heavy top control. He's got a plethora of submissions. The only issue is that Nikita, and this is an issue as a betting man, this is not an issue as a fan. As a fan, there is no issue with Nikita Krylov. As a fan, Nikita Krylov is perfect. As a fan, I mean, you got to thank God for the creation of Nikita Krylov. But as a betting man, sometimes his kill or be killed mentality gets him in trouble. And that could very well be the case here, because Ryan Spann is an opportunistic finisher. Ryan Spann has one of the nastiest guillotines, probably the nastiest guillotine in the light heavyweight division. Not to mention, the guy's got one punch knockout power. He's 6'5". I mean, he literally missed weight for his last fight at 205. That's how big this dude is. And he's got that 82-inch reach. So what I love about, you know, we've talked about this so many times, how these emerging light heavyweights, these are the guys that I wanted to see Johnny Bones Jones fight, you know, because I remember when John Jones was champ, and we're going to talk about it next week when he fights Cyril Gane. The days of John Jones being 10 years younger, you know, 6 inches taller, having a 10-inch reach advantage over everyone, those days are long gone. Like, John Jones is no longer the young cat, you know, schooling the old guys anymore. When we see John Jones next week, he's about to, I believe he's older than Gane. So I'm just saying, man, like, this new era of light heavyweights, like, I just wish John Jones got to fight Jamal Hill. The last time, you know, the last kind of new era-esque guy that John Jones got to face was Dominic Reyes. And at the time, Reyes was doing his thing, but Reyes never came back the same ever again after the Jones fight. And credit to Ryan Spann, because, you know, I actually bet on Reyes in the Spann fight, which was probably my worst bet of last year. But my whole reasoning, and this was a rookie mistake, I was like, well, listen, man, I mean, the only guys to get Dominic Reyes out of there are champs. I mean, you know, he went the full distance with Jones. He, you know, but he got knocked out by Yuri and Jan. You know, those are two champs. Like, what's Ryan Spann got on those guys? And Ryan Spann goes out there and finishes Dominic Reyes quicker than Yuri Prohaska, quicker than Jan Blachowicz. And we know that Jones fight fucked with him mentally. But basically what I'm trying to get at here is this. You gotta lean Krylov if this is an extended fight, because I do think, you know, that last fight he had against Volkan, that first round was chaos, man. I mean, Nikita was getting rocked, but his composure was there. He was able to secure some takedowns. He was able to extend it. And in an extended fight, which is something I didn't know, Nikita thrives, which is funny because at the beginning of the show, I was talking about how Nikita's a guy who's got 29 wins, and 27 of those wins are inside the distance. But he's been proven that the guy can go the distance too. The guy might actually have a nice little long game going for him too. So I think that the longer this fight goes, the more it does favor Nikita Krylov. But what I'm worried about, and I'm not trying to be one of these guys who's like, well, either guy can win by knockout, submission, or decision, and then act like I gave y'all the most genius breakdown ever. But this is literally one of those spots where, I mean, I can see Nikita Krylov shooting on a sloppy takedown early, getting guillotined. I can also see Nikita Krylov tagging up Spann, get him to shoot on a sloppy takedown, and you choke him out. So I can see the submission early on either way, but I'm more inclined to believe if it is an early finish that it's going to be Ryan Spann guillotining Nikita if it's an early finish, an early submission rather. Early knockout, that's tough. That's really tough because it's like we got kind of the head kicks of Nikita Krylov versus, I guess, the straight punches of Ryan Spann. And that's such a black and white way to talk, is like Nikita Krylov knocked out Alexander Gustafsson with hands. So on the Spann side of things, I made one of my worst bets of the year betting on Dominic to beat Ryan. But I made one of my best bets of the year betting on Nikita to take out the ghost of Alexander Gustafsson. And that was easy work. I mean, he just went out there and just got him out of there real quick. So this could be one of those round of the year type fights where they just have that insane 1-round fight, almost like Ryan and Anthony Smith had. Like Ryan and Anthony Smith had like a 1-round brawl. And the only thing though is like, it's easy to watch that Ryan Spann and Anthony Smith fight and be like, yeah, I mean, like if you just kind of push this guy a little bit, he'll break. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. But the thing about it is like him and Anthony Smith were talking all kinds of shit to each other going into that fight. So, you know, there was a lot of ego on the line. And sometimes when you're fighting with ego, you're more susceptible to gassing. Maybe that was the case. Or maybe Anthony Smith just truly took his soul that night. But here against Nikita, I mean, I really do see them just coming out here and just getting after it and seeing who the more dominant man, who's the alpha between these two. So I think it's Nikita. I really do. It's just that when you got the physical attributes and the danger that Ryan Spann brings to the table, you can't sit here and act surprised. You can't sit here and act like, you know, like he gets a guillotine, he gets a knockout. You can't act surprised. The guy's dangerous. And I saw some people, you know, nitpicking his record, saying, you know, he hasn't fought anybody, he hasn't been impressive. And I get that, but like, look at the way he's handling these dudes when he wins. I mean, when this dude wins, he wins pretty clean, man. That Reyes fight, absolutely clean. The Iwan Kutalaba fight, clean. The Misha Serkunov fight, clean. Sam Alvey fight, not so clean. But I think the Sam Alvey fight was a case where it's like, look, dude, you're a -600 favorite. You think it's a joke before the fight even starts. Alvey's on this ridiculous losing streak. If you watch Ryan Spann's walkout during the Alvey fight, he's got like his sunglasses on. He's like rapping to the music. The dude was acting like he already won the fight before it even started. He thought that that Sam Alvey was this big joke. Because, I mean, quite frankly, between you and me, Sam Alvey was this big joke at the time. So that's kind of my thing. I think Ryan Spann thought, oh, I'm just going to get this guy out of there in 30 seconds, and we're going to go to the nightclub, you know, at the after party. And I think that once it actually presented itself to be a fight, he was kind of surprised by that. Whereas there's no way he's training for a Nikita Krylov fight thinking like, yeah, I'm just going to get Nikita Krylov out of there in 30 seconds. Like, he has to go to sleep every night knowing that, like, Nikita's coming for you, man. Nikita's going to put it on you. Whereas, like, you go to sleep knowing that you're fighting Alves on a 7-fight losing streak. He's probably like, yeah, I don't need to do my runs in the morning. Hey, I can eat this extra slice of pizza. Like, he was probably fucking off. He thought it was this big joke. It's no longer a big joke when you're fighting Nikita Krylov. And there's this whole talk about how Ryan Spann said that this last fight was the first time he ever did a training camp. Guys, talk is cheap. That is such bullshit. Like, I don't know the guy personally, but that to me just sounds like, remember when Max Holloway said he did a champ camp on a Zoom call for the second Volkanovski fight and people actually believed him? Like, how fucking gullible are you, man? Like, Max Holloway did not do a champ camp via Zoom call, and Ryan Spann has not only trained for one fight in his life. Like stop that bullshit, okay? Now, do I think he's probably training harder now than he ever has? Yeah, 100%. You're also not fighting Sam Alvey anymore. You're fighting one of the most potent finishers in, honestly, in the history of the sport. So I expect Spann to show up at his best. I expect him to make weight. Nikita, first main event, man. It took you goddamn almost 40 fights for you to get your first main event. And I expect both these guys to show out. So it's one of those things where it's like, we do have to talk numbers. Reason being is this, like, I line Nikita, I think he wins this cleanly 6 out of 10 times. So, 60%, I think he's a minus 150. So he's currently minus 170. So I'm good. I don't need to bet Nikita here. And I'm a guy that's bet Nikita a lot throughout his career. It's just that, is there really much value here? I just think he wins this 6 out of 10 times. I think there's 40% chance he's getting caught here. So honestly, it's a dog or pass situation. Pure pick, I'm going to go with Nikita. But I'm just not interested in laying minus 170. Like, where's my edge? Like, don't get me wrong. He might just come out here and either guy can get that first round finish. And if that's the case, then okay, then there was an edge. But I don't know, man. I just see it being like one of those 1-round brawls where either guy can get finished and they're just getting after it. And, someone's going to be very sad on Saturday night. I'm not sure who it is. I'm going to pick Nikita to win. Because I do think he is the tougher guy if a fight gets extended, but there's no guarantee this fight gets extended. So I'm kind of running around in circles with this prediction just to let y'all know that I'm picking Nikita Krylov, but I'm not betting him. Now, co-main event of the evening in the middleweight division, we got Andre Muniz. He's 23-4. Taking on Brendan Allen, who's 20-5. Currently, they got it. Andre Muniz minus 205. The comeback on Brendan Allen is plus 175. So interestingly enough, this one actually opened a pick 'em. It opened minus 110 apiece. The steam came in on Andre. And I mean, I get it, man. Andre is one of the most disgusting black belts in the middleweight division, let alone in the UFC, right? Like, this guy is absolutely nasty. Snap Jacare's arm. Even in the Erick Anders fight, like, dudes don't just come out there and run through Erick Anders. Like, usually when Erick Anders loses a fight, it's like, a 3-round fight where dudes are getting pushed up against the fence and this and that. And even like when Erick's gotten his ass whooped, like, you saw how durable Erick was in that Khalil Roundtree fight. Like, Andre Muniz just goes out there, blast doubles Erick Anders and almost breaks his arm. It was like, God damn. And then the last fight against Uriah Hall, very, very impressive. Reason being was this, it's easy to just sit here and talk about how, oh, he just laid on him for 3 rounds. What a boring this. Nah, dude, that's not what. Hey, Andre Muniz outstruck Uriah Hall first. And then when he wanted to take him down, he did take him down. So Andre Muniz is going to take down Brendan Allen. That much we can agree on. It's just what happens after that. I think that Brendan Allen is extremely talented, and I think that Brendan Allen hasn't even scratched the surface of his potential yet. And this is a guy that's been fighting for a long time. He's been paying his dues forever. I mean, forever, ever. We were just talking about Erick Anders, right? Brendan Allen was fighting Erick Anders on his regional scene. Brendan Allen was fighting Ryan Spann on his regional scene. Fluffy Hernandez. So, I mean, he was fighting some real dudes. Trevin Giles as well. So, actually, I think I'm wrong about Ryan Spann. He didn't fight Ryan Spann, did he? One of these other guys fought Ryan Spann on the regional scene. Maybe it was Trevin Giles, but I retract saying that Ryan Spann was on his record, but I do not retract Erick Anders, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. So he was in there with some really good dudes, was Brendan Allen on his regional scene. And he's always had that style where I always said that once this dude's a black belt, it's going to really translate, because he was trying to do the same shit he does now as like a purple belt, right? Which, I'm a purple belt too. I love it. But like, at the UFC level, there's going to be black belts everywhere and this and that. So for him to implement his style, I needed him to upgrade to that black belt. And now that he is that black belt, I mean, when's the last time you saw Chris Jocko get choked out? I mean, not since Chris Jocko's UFC debut against Magnus Cedarblad. Was that the last time Jocko got choked out, right? Let me look that up real quick. Yeah, it was Jocko's second UFC fight against Magnus Cedarblad in 2014 was the last time Chris Jocko got choked out. And Brendan Allen was out there. I mean, we can talk about the choke. It was a beautiful Mata Leon rear naked choke. But let's talk about that body kick. Absolutely disgusting. But we also have to talk about how easily Brendan Allen went to his back early in that Jocko fight, because I know for a fact he's going to go to his back here against Andre Muniz, just like he went to his back against Jacob Malkoun, against Jocko, against a lot of these guys. The thing is that what's going to happen from there? And that's what I cannot wait to see. Like, is Brendan Allen's ego so big that he thinks like, I'm going to submit Andre Muniz? Or is it going to be a case where it's like, hey, let's survive the bad spots on the ground. Let's make this guy use all of his energy. And then when we get back up on the feet, let's light him up. Because I do think that Brendan Allen is a lot cleaner standing than Andre Muniz. Also, Andre Muniz, similar to Allen, has taken his fair share of knockout losses back in the day. What's the name of the Russian that knocked out who's the kid that fought Dawoon Jung? Devin Clark. What's the name of the Russian that knocked out Devin Clark a fight ago? Mirzakhanov, the one that knocked out Ivan Kutalava. They had like their gis and their shorts on, a little sambo match. So Mirzakhanov also knocked out Andre Muniz back in the day, and like under a minute too. So yeah, I'm just saying, interestingly enough, Brendan Allen is live for a knockout here. What I want to know is what happens in these grappling exchanges. Like, because I do think positionally speaking that Muniz is going to be more dominant. But I also think, like I alluded to, if Brendan Allen can survive these early, this early jiu-jitsu storm and make this guy work, make this guy think that he has a submission, make him use all his energy. And from there, you can take over in that second and third round, make the takedowns a little bit harder to come by, and just make him work for everything. So there is a path to victory for Brendan Allen. But the reason I'm leaning with Muniz is because just how easy it is to get Allen to the mat. So I already know for a fact Muniz is getting takedowns here. Like, I haven't been so sure of anything in my life. Watch Muniz come in here and try to bang with Brendan Allen, right? But I just really think Andre is going to get these takedowns easily. But I don't have confidence what happens after that, because, like, man, if Brendan had Bilal's fight IQ, man, I'd be betting Brendan here, because sometimes the thing with Brendan is he's just a kid. I don't think people realize, look, he's had 25 pro fights. He's only 27. I know he's been around the game a long time. You'd think he's 32. You think he's 33. He's only 27. So you're still going to be making these leaps. If this is finally his time, like, it's a winnable fight. It's just, can I rely on Brendan Allen to be smart out there? Because, like, you look at his fight with Sean Strickland, you look at his fight with Chris Curtis, and, like, yeah, did he have moments in both those fights? Sure. But his ego got the best of him. Like, he's letting the dudes in the corner have conversations with him in the middle of the fight. Like, you're not even focusing on your opponent. You're focusing on the corner, man. Like, so hopefully those were learning lessons, and going forward, he can come out here, learn from those mistakes, because you have a winnable fight. But due to the fact that Brendan, what I've seen on tape, I know it can be fixed, but until I see it fixed, it's going to be hard for me to pick him in this specific fight. So for that reason, I'm going to pick Andre Muniz via unanimous decision. But there is a path to Brendan. So there is a path, Brendan. Let's see if you're smart enough. Maybe not even smarter. Let's see if you're good enough, because there's black belts and then there's black belts, right? Brendan is a black belt, but Andre is like a 4th degree black belt. There's a big difference between their black belts, but there's a path to Brendan here. Let's see if he can capitalize. But I'm gonna pick Andre Muniz via decision. All right, next up, the featured bout. We got Augusto Sakai. He's 15-5, taking on Don'Tale Mayes, who's 9-4. Currently, they got it Augusto Sakai -135. The comeback on Don'Tale Mayes is +115. So, excuse me. So, I understand the narratives going into this fight, that a couple years ago, Augusto Sakai would have been, -200, -250, minus this, minus that. He would have been a big favorite in the spot, because at one point, Augusto Sakai was one of the emerging heavyweights. You know, he had knocked out Marcin Tybura, knocked a couple guys out, right? So people were looking at him like, hey, like, this is a dude that, you know, could potentially do some big things. And man, he just hasn't been the same, you know, ever since that he got that ovary main event. And ever since then, he's been getting knocked out every single fight. So, you know, on one hand, you can look at the level of competition and be like, hey, man, these dudes that have been coming out here knocking out Sakai are on a completely different level than Don'Tale Mayes. 100%. But I made that mistake when I bet on Dom Reyes to beat Ryan Spann. I was like, dude, okay, I get that he's been losing, but like John Jones, Yuri Prohaska, Jan Blachowicz, these guys are champions. What's Ryan Spann got, right? And then Ryan Spann finishes him quicker than Yuri and Jan did, right? So all I'm trying to say is that damaged goods are damaged goods. So, you know, it's a situation where I think that Sakai is lacking confidence. I think Sakai is lacking chin, but I think that, you know, there's questions about the heart of Don'Tale Mayes. There's questions about the intelligence of Don'Tale Mayes, man. I think a lot of that is in question. I mean, Don'Tale Mayes, a couple of fights ago, he arguably lost to Rocky Martinez, man. Like, that is not a good look for the UFC level. So, you know, he gave us that great highlight when he was humping that dude's face and this and that. It was hilarious, haha. But like, and maybe, you know, if you're betting on Mayes, I know you hope he does that here. Maybe he does. Sakai can't wrestle. Sakai's got a confidence issue now, coming off 4 straight knockout losses. His chin is in question. So what do we expect from Don'Tale? The thing about Don'Tale is, like, let's not even talk about the Rocky Martinez fight that was 50-50. Let's talk about back in the day. Snoop Dogg said Don'Tale Mayes wasn't invited to the gang fight. Like, Snoop Dogg wouldn't just say some shit like that unless there was some reasoning behind it. And I know that that sounds kind of funny, haha, but like, what that really means is that this guy ain't that good of a fighter. And I believe that to be true. I really do. He's just a big physical dude. You know what I'm saying? He's a guy, he's 6'6". He's got the 81-inch reach. He's a big boy. He can bang a little bit, you know? So Sakai's got to be careful, man. But Sakai's got kind of like a calculated technical Muay Thai style. And if, you know, Don'Tale stands with him, Don'Tale could crack him, but more often than not, I think Sakai, you know, is just a little bit too skilled for Don'Tale in that realm. But Don'Tale starts mixing in some takedowns. Not that he's some stud wrestler. He's absolutely not a stud wrestler, as you guys know, but he's a better wrestler than Sakai. So there is a path, but I'm going to pick Sakai. No bet. I ain't betting a dude that, you know, that's coming off 4 straight knockout losses. I've learned my lesson doing some shit like that. So my pick is Sakai, no bet. Next up in the flyweight division, we got the return of Tatiana Suarez, who's 8-0, taking on Montana De La Rosa, who's 12-7-1. Currently, they got it. Tatiana Suarez minus 750 to come back on Montana's plus 550. So, look, a couple years ago, this line I agree with a couple of years ago, because a couple of years ago, Tatiana was on that upward trajectory. And a lot of people thought that, you know, she could be a future champion. Interestingly enough, so I'm not trying to sound like a hater or anything, because I do like Tatiana. Excuse me. I do like Tatiana, and she's got a very inspirational story. I mean, she's a cancer survivor. Like, how can you not respect her? So I respect the fuck out of Tatiana Suarez, but I was actually never one of those people that thought that she was a future champion. I really wasn't. And reason being was this. I always thought she had, you know, very, very dominant grappling. I mean, she does. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. Hold on a second. But I've always thought that Tatiana Suarez stand-up was extremely suspect. I've thought that since day one, man. And I mean, I guess the little evidence we have is that 3rd round against Nina Ansaroff, but like, we haven't seen Tatiana in a long ass time. So is she going to be as dominant as she once was? I mean, if she is, this is a good matchup for her, because Montana is kind of easy to take down, and she is a bit of a grappler herself, more of a jiu-jitsu fighter, which, you know, I love my jiu-jitsu, but I think a solid wrestling game beats kind of a solid jiu-jitsu. This ain't world-class jiu-jitsu that Montana has. It's just kind of, you know, solid jiu-jitsu. And I think Tatiana's grappling can neutralize Montana. But I actually think this is one of those fights where Montana actually has an advantage standing, which you don't often see. This is one of the few times where Montana is going to be better than her opponent standing. So if she can stuff some takedowns, there is a path. But ultimately, you know, if Tatiana is anything like she once was, I think she's going to get those takedowns. But I know it's a minority opinion, and I know I might sound like a hater saying it. I'm not a hater. I love Tatiana. Cancer survivor, you got all my respect. But I was never one of the people calling her a future champion. I called Jamal Hill a future champion, and I was right about that. I said Bilal Muhammad's going to fight for a world title, and I will be right about that. It hasn't been proven yet. But I never said anything about Tatiana Suarez being a future champion. I still think that the jury is out. The jury's not out on her grappling, but the jury's out on her stand-up. And nowadays, this ain't like a few years ago when Carla Esparza was champ, and actually Carla became a 2-time champ, which is fucking insane considering how one-dimensional she is. But nowadays, if you want to be a champ in the women's divisions, I mean, Weili is well-rounded. Weili can do it all. You move up a weight class to flyweight, you got Valentina. I mean, I know she's showing some weakness in her grappling, but she can still grapple. Don't let it fool you that she lost a couple rounds here and there. She can still grapple. And then up another weight class, you got Amanda, who's choked people out, who's knocked people out. So, like, what I'm trying to say is that to be a champion in the women's divisions in 2023, you must be well-rounded. And I don't have any evidence whatsoever that Tatiana is a well-rounded fighter. I know that she's a very dominant grappler, and that's probably going to get her a victory here. But, I'm not interested at minus 750, and everyone calling her a future champ. Maybe you're right, but I was never on that bandwagon back in the day, and I'm not on that bandwagon now. But that being said, this is not a title fight, so who cares? And she should be physical enough and dominant enough to get this one done. But moving forward, we'll have to see. We'll have to take it matchup by matchup. But some of y'all are more sold on her than I am. So, anyways, I got Tatiana here, probably by decision. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got an all-Canadian violence matchup. We got Mike Mallot. He's 8-1-1, taking on Yohan Lainesse, who's 9-1. Currently, they got it Mike Mallot minus 215. The comeback on Yohan Lainesse is plus 185. This is a tough one because it's like, so Mike Mallot, dude, his jiu-jitsu is disgusting, man. I mean, that guillotine he hit on Contenders against Shimon. I mean, I know Shimon's a can, but like still, man, like and Shimon is a can. Like if you all watched Shimon's fight since then on the regional scene, dude. Yeah, we're trying so hard to set up my boy Robert Hale with a fight with Shimon because a Contender Series vet under your resume, like, look out for my boy Robert Hale. He might get signed here soon. But anyways, so the dude Mike Mallot fought on Contender Series, Shimon. He sucks. No offense, for UFC standards, I mean, right? But Mike handled him like he sucks. Mike treated him in a way where it was like, kid, like, pack your bags and run along. You know what I'm saying? That was a nasty guillotine. And then his fight with Mickey, the early exchanges, Mike was lighting up Mickey. Then it looked like Mickey was starting to put it on Mike, even busted up Mike's face a little bit. Mickey got a little bit reckless, got a little bit carried away, and Mike caught him with a disgusting counter and face planted him. And I mean, Mickey's a dude that went 3 with Randy, went 3 with Mike Perry. Like, Mickey might not be the best, but Mickey's a tough dude, and Mike starched him. Now, granted, Mickey did get carried away. He saw the blood on Mallot, and he started going after him, charged him recklessly, got hit with a beautiful counter. So that was nice. Now, here with Yohan's at an interesting place in his career because right now I feel like he's figuring things out mentally, right? If you go back to Yohan's regional scene, dude, he was running through everybody. I mean, he'd knock dudes out. He'd tap dudes out. He could wrestle on his regional scene. Like, Yohan reminded me of like a Canadian Matt Brown, which is a big compliment, right? Like, Matt Brown, one of the violence kings, the violence king of the welterweight division. I mean, the most finishes in welterweight history. Yohan reminded me of like a welterweight Matt Brown, just like kind of a grizzly dude who's going to get in that clinch, fire off some big elbows. Like, when he hits dudes, they feel it. They remember when they got hit by Yohan Lainesse, win, lose, or draw. Like, even the Gabe Green fight, I know the ending, wasn't the prettiest thing in the world in terms of Yohan's standpoint, but like up until then, if you had a bet on Gabe Green, you were sweating that shit, man. I mean, he was putting it on Gabe Green, and then he kind of gassed badly and then ate a body shot when you're gassed. Oh my God, I can only imagine. He probably shat his pants. But then the next fight, he made an overcorrection, right? Like, so he came out hard in that Gabe Green fight, just like he did in all his regional fights, just going out there trying to take your opponent out from the second the ref says go. But when it finally didn't work against Gabe Green, someone stood up to the bully, it messed with him mentally to a point where his very next fight, I mean, the guy's gun shy, the guy's hesitant. And I bet on Yohan his last fight against Darian Weeks, and it was a sweat. I thought we edged it, but it was a sweat. But I will say this, to Yohan's credit, Darian Weeks, even though he doesn't win UFC fights, for some reason, all the dudes that have fought him have looked their worst when they fought him. Like, he goes in there with Brian Barberena and like lands over 100 significant strikes and 4 takedowns against Brian Barberena. He goes in there against Ian Gary, and Ian clearly wins the fight, but it was like, you know, the least impressive performance of Ian Gary's UFC career. And then Yohan, you know, Yohan looked gun shy. Yohan looked like he was questioning himself. So Darian Weeks, he might not win UFC fights, but he's tough to look good against. So I'll give Yohan credit there. But this is a different matchup, you know, because Mike Mallot is not going to just try to pin you up against the fence and, you know, try to make the crowd boo and try to bore everyone to sleep, kind of like Darian Weeks does. You know, Darian Weeks kind of tries to kind of like neutralize the fight, right? Pin Ian Gary up against the fence, take Barberena down and lay on him, and then make Yohan look gun shy, but like nothing comes back in return. So what I'm trying to say here is that Mike Mallot's not going to fight like, you know, like a Jordan Leavitt. Mike Mallot's he's going to fight like a grown ass man, where it's like either you're going to fall or I'm going to fall and someone's going to hit the deck. Let me check what the fight doesn't go the distance is. I'm actually curious now that I brought that up. So yeah. Okay. So fight doesn't go the distance, minus 280 for this fight. It opened minus 215. So kind of what I thought. I think it might even could be a little bit higher. You know, Yohan's last fight, you know, I see someone mentioned he only landed 23 strikes. Look, I'm not going to debate that, but like, I don't really believe that Darian doubled him up on strikes. I think that sometimes the counters are a little off in certain things, but I did think the more significant shots were landed by Yohan. But I agree, Yohan did not look good in that fight, period. My dog is fucking barking and going crazy. Does that mean that Yohan's live here? So I don't know, because it's like we've never really seen Mike past the first round. And I kind of think that there's certain suspect things about Mike's game. I think technically speaking on the feet, he's fun to watch and he can hurt a lot of guys. He has hurt a lot of guys. But I also think he can be clipped, man. You saw that Renfro fight. He got dropped. He got rocked in that Renfro fight. But, man, the way that he found that submission was beautiful. The Mickey Gall fight, I felt like, you know, like I said, the early exchanges went to Mallot. Then the next couple exchanges went to Mickey. And then Mallot clipped Mickey while Mickey was getting a little bit ahead of himself. So I'm not sold on Mallot at all, man. It's just that, you know, this dude Yohan is basically looking himself in the mirror right now. He's trying to figure shit out. He doesn't know who he is right now, because the Gabe Green fight, he was still on that 100 miles per hour Matt Brown game. This last fight, he looked gun shy, looked timid, didn't look like himself. So this next fight, I think we can see kind of a little in between for Yohan. I think Yohan's live. It's just, can I trust Yohan to let his hands go? And can I trust Yohan to not get submitted also? I don't know. I really don't. Mallot, if there's anything this dude can do, he can finish a fight, but so can Yohan. I'm going to go Mallot pure pick, but I don't know, man. I think there's a chance it could be a dogger pass situation. It's tough for me to bet Yohan when I know that his confidence is, you know, he's kind of figuring things out right now. He's trying to see what is my style truly, you know? Is he going to come out here balls to the wall? Is he going to come out here timid? I just don't know. So, yeah, I mean, you got to love the matchmakers, man. I mean, people are crying that you put 2 Canadian fighters in here. Fuck it, man. I mean, let's see who the best Canadian welterweight is. I'm down. So I like it. I'll go Mallot pure pick, but suspicion that it might be a dogger pass situation. All right. Next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Erick, the Ghost Pepper Gonzalez. He's 14-7, taking on Trevor Peak, who is 7-0. And currently, they got it. Trevor Peak minus 190. The comeback on Erick Gonzalez is plus 160. And I'm just going to tell you all this right here, right now, on half the battle. Trevor is going to be a peak fade in the UFC. And I mean that. It's just that here in this fight, you know, they really did dig down to the bottom of the barrel. So here's the thing with Trevor Peak. Back to the being a fan versus being a bettor. As a fan, how can you not love Trevor Peek? I mean, as a fan, the dude comes in there like, if there's one thing about Trevor Peek, he's aggressive. He's going to get in your face. He's going to try to take you out. He's going to throw everything he has into every shot, almost like an early Yohan Lainesse before Yohan had to take that setback. Peek is a guy that's going to go in there and try to take you out. So entertainment-wise, I love it. Betting-wise, I don't love it because the guy is open to being hit. I've seen him rocked in multiple fights. I've seen him taken down. I've seen him in terrible spots. So Peek at minus 190, I'm not interested at all, man. And like the thing about this kid, Ghost Pepper, is this, man. So Ghost Pepper, it's tough because like you watch some of his combate fights and they're really, really exciting fights. They're like these just Mexican brawls and you love to see it, but it's just tough seeing that shit translate at the UFC level. I think that Gonzalez lacks, kind of the athleticism needed to be at the UFC. He's a little bit uncoordinated. He's a little bit, he'll fall into his shots. He gets rocked in a lot of fights. But to his credit, he is a tough Mexican. He can crack. It's just that when I've seen him crack dudes and wobble them, sometimes he gets carried away. And also on his regional tape, so I saw his fight with Humberto Bandone, and I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, like, this is a perfect fight to show your skills against, a dude that got cut from the UFC, a guy that went like 1-4 in the UFC. Go out there and style on this guy. And Bandone looked like a fucking seasoned vet against Ghost Pepper. So I'm just quite like Ghost Pepper's really got to level up, man. He is experienced. You got to give him that. And he can crack. He is a tough guy. It's just the lack of athleticism really gets me. He's not the smartest guy. He doesn't make the best decisions when he's in there. So as a fan, I love watching him, but as a betting man, because you see Trevor Peek minus 190, and like I said, Trevor is going to be a peak fade inside the octagon. So I can't wait to fade him. But when I watched the tape on Gonzalez, I was like, so Trevor Peek is probably going to win one UFC fight, this one right here. And then after that, we can talk about fading him. Will it surprise me if Erick gets the upset? No, because I do think Trevor is that vulnerable, is that exposed when he fights. It's just like here at the UFC level, you cannot be that sloppy, man. I'm telling you. I mean, if you want to have longevity, I mean, you can come out here, have a fight of the night here and there, and then get cut 3-4 fights in. But I'm saying you want to be in the UFC this time next year. You got to clean some shit up. So hopefully he has. I'm going to go Trevor. I think he's slightly more physical than Ghost Pepper. But like I said, Trevor is going to be a peak fade in the UFC. And I ain't laying no chalk on him, period. So, yeah, I'm good on that one. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between newcomer Gabriella Fernandes. She's 8-1, taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's 7-2. Currently, they got it. Gabriella Fernandes minus 125. The comeback on Jasmine Jasudavicius is plus 105. So it actually opened minus 170. Jasmine. This is a tough one because it's like each fighter is good where the other one's weak, right? Like Gabriella. Now, I heard people really hyping her striking. And when I watched it, I was kind of underwhelmed because when you hyped her striking, I was thinking like, oh shit, I might have a new Yan Xiaonan. I might have a new, Marina Rodriguez. And it wasn't like that at all, man. I mean, she's a little physical, she's a thick girl and, she can put it on some of these lower level opponents, but man, the takedown defense, when I tell you that the takedown defense is not quite there, man, it's not quite there to a point where it's like there's no resistance on the takedown attempts. It's literally she'll go right to her back. And Jasmine was like a credentialed wrestler in Canada. Not that that means much, but I think it means enough here to get takedowns because what you got to understand is Gabriella does not have anywhere near the takedown defense of Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva is one of my favorite prospects in this division, right? So when I heard that Jasmine was fighting another Brazilian striker, I was like, okay, is this going to be Natalia part 2? This is not Natalia part 2. Gabriella, from what I can see, sometimes the regional tape, it doesn't tell the whole story. They come to the UFC and they perform on a different level than you hadn't seen before. So maybe that's the case here, but I don't see any signs of her being anywhere near as talented as Natalia Silva. And I think this is a spot where Jasmine can get takedowns and hold her down. It's just that on the feet, if I were to bet Jasmine here, I'm going to be really pissed off when she's closing her eyes, when she's looking away, when she's not shooting takedowns, and when she's giving this fight away. So that's why I'm not going to bet her. But I think I do have to pick Jasmine because the edge grappling is big enough here to where I think she can control her for 2 of the 3 rounds and get this decision. And I wasn't impressed enough with the stand-up to think that she's just going to bust up Jasmine like Natalia did. I think Natalia is actually a legit prospect. I don't think Gabriella is, but I'm open to being proven wrong. But as of right now, I'm going to pick Jasmine to win this via decision. Hey, everybody do me a huge favor. Smash the like button. And if you're not already subscribed, please do me that favor and subscribe. Now, I'm excited to talk about this next matchup in the lightweight division between Jordan Leavitt, he's 10-2, taking on Victor Martinez, who is 13-4. Currently, they got it. Victor Martinez minus, well, it depends where you look. If you look on DraftKings, we're talking minus 115 Martinez, we're talking minus 105 Leavitt. If we're talking Bet Online, we're talking minus 114 Leavitt, we're talking minus 106 Victor. But anyways, friends do not let friends bet on grown men that twerk in UFC fights, period. I got Victor Martinez here, and I'll tell you why. So what is Jordan Leavitt known for? Jordan Leavitt is known for his grappling, but like people overhype his grappling to a point, man. I mean, dude, Claudio Puelles out-grappled this guy. So yeah, is Jordan Leavitt's strength is grappling. It sure is. But to sit here and act like Jordan Leavitt is some 3rd-degree black belt, like 1 takedown and the fight is over shortly after, is the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard in my life. And you want to know who Victor Martinez's main training partner is for this fight? Victor Martinez's main training partner for this fight is Carlos Diego Ferreira, who is a legit 3rd-degree black belt, who is a guy that went out there and beat Gary Tonin in pure grappling. So, I mean, Victor's grappling with a way better guy than Jordan Leavitt every single day. Not to mention, I have inclination to believe that Victor Martinez is actually a black belt under Carlos Diego Ferreira, which, you know, Carlos Diego ain't just out here handing out black belts. So honestly, I think Victor's got a better ground game than Jordan Leavitt. I know that sounds crazy because everyone thinks Jordan's this, you know, acting like he's like he's the you know, LGBT Gordon Ryan, but dude, no, he's not. No, he's not. Okay, like, you know, I know he's Nate Marquardt's favorite fighter, and I know Nate's eyes are gonna be glued to the TV when Jordan fights, hoping for a little twerk, but there ain't gonna be no twerking Saturday night, man. I think that Victor Martinez is too physical for this guy. I think he's too well-rounded. Also, Victor went out there and landed the most strikes in Contender Series history. Now, when I heard that, I thought it was a little sus because I was like, there's no fucking way he landed over 140 strikes. Apparently he did. So listen, I'm not going to just disagree with the counters when I see fit and then agree with them when it helps my narrative. So I'll just go ahead and say I disagree with the counters. I do not think that Victor Martinez actually landed 140 plus strikes in that Contender Series fight. So that didn't seem to me like the most strikes landed in Contender Series history. But that being said, let's say he didn't land 140 strikes. Let's say he only landed 100 strikes. Let's say he only landed 110. That's more than Jordan Leavitt's landed in any fight he's ever had. And Jordan Leavitt's stand-up is laughable. I mean, he throws these. I mean, I honestly think some of y'all could have success sparring with Jordan Leavitt, striking-wise. Maybe not grappling-wise. He'll tap y'all out and then twerk. But striking-wise, his striking is atrocious, man. I mean, he throws side kicks with nothing behind them. He's got no hands whatsoever. Doesn't like getting hit. Yeah, if he can submit you early, he'll be good. But I don't think he's going to come out here and submit a Carlos Diego Ferreira black belt early. I think he's going to have to pay for these ugly takedown attempts. I think he's going to have to pay for the fact that his game hasn't leveled up and you're in the UFC now, bud. So I'm going Victor Martinez here to twerk on this guy, man. And I'm considering a bet here. Look, dude, at the end of the day, no grown man that twerks is going to win UFC fights long-term. And I stand by that. And give me the Carlos Diego Ferreira black belt to come out here and teach this guy a lesson. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I got Victor Martinez for the dub. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between O'Day Osbourne. He's 11-5, taking on Charles Johnson, who was 13-3. And currently, they got it. Charles Johnson, minus 170, the comeback on O'Day Osbourne's plus 145. But it's also minus 151, Charles, on Bet Online. So interesting. I like this fight a lot. Joe asked me, but V Martinez gets taken down every fight. Yeah, but he gets back up every fight too. I mean, the dude hasn't been submitted in how long? Like, I mean, every time I've seen him in a bad spot in the last few years, he's escaped that bad spot pretty easily. So if if the twerker can submit him, then props to him, man. But yeah, I don't see it happening against this level guy. But we'll see. Anyways, back to O'Day and Charles. I love this fight. So basically, I think Charles is one of the cleaner boxers in the flyweight division. Like O'Day Osbourne can bang. O'Day Osbourne can, he can stand in the center. He can slug him out. But Charles Johnson can box for MMA. And there's a big difference between the two of them. O'Day Osbourne, really long. Both of them are really long. Actually, Charles is the taller guy, but O'Day's got that long ass reach for a flyweight. He's got a 72-inch reach, which is probably up there with the longest reaches in the flyweight division. And he's a very dangerous guy, especially if you're one of these short, stocky guys that, is a little bit lacking in the athleticism department. If you're not quite on the UFC level and you're fighting O'Day Osbourne, I mean, he's gonna tool bag you in a way where, like, I mean, you saw how he knocked out Zaruk Adashev as soon as he felt like it. You saw how the first punch he threw against Jerome Rivera just got him out of there real quick. When he got taken down on Contender Series, he did what he's done in a lot of his fights. Arm bars from guard. He's got triangles off his back. So, like, O'Day is a very athletic guy, and if you can't match him on athleticism, man, pobrecito, you know what I'm saying? O'Day will go out there and make you into a highlight reel. The issue for O'Day in this fight specifically is that not only can Charles match him physically speaking, I mean, Charles is, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach, which for flyweight standards, that's a big boy. But Charles Johnson is a very clean guy standing, probably one of the cleanest strikers in the flyweight division. And I mean, a guy that fights behind his jab, a guy that's got great volume, a guy that goes out there, throwing those stabbing front kicks to the gut. His get-up game is absolutely insane. I mean, Mokaev went out there, took him down like 20 times, and Charles Johnson got up every single time. Charles Johnson was even attacking, long man guillotines against Mokaev. I've never seen Mokaev, be like, oh shit, like this guy might submit me. Like that power guillotine that Charles Johnson had on Mokaev, like if that's O'Day, he's getting the tap right there, man. And I'm very impressed with Charles. And I think there's a big misconception, and y'all ready for this controversy I'm about to bring that your virgin ears aren't ready for? That fight between Charles Johnson and Zalgas was not a robbery in any way, shape, or form. Look, I get it. It's fight night. You've had a couple drinks. You've been smoking pot. You have money on Zalgas. So I get from that standpoint, you're a little inebriated, so you didn't quite see things clearly. So you thought Zalgas won. Look, we all make mistakes. But you go back and you rewatch that fight sober and you still think Zalgas won, well, then there's a problem, because the first and third round, clearly Charles won. And there's a big difference in how their shots landed. Everything that Zalgas was landing, for the most part, he did land a couple clean strikes, but for the most part, Zalgas was throwing and hitting gloves. Zalgas was hitting elbow, was hitting shoulder. Whereas when Charles was landing, I mean, you saw Zalgas head popping back. Like, those were some clean strikes. The cleaner strikes were 100% landed by Charles in that fight. That fight was not a robbery at all. First and third went to Charles all day. And I rewatched it sober. I didn't have money on it the first time. I still got it 29-28 Charles. First and third, baby. And I mean, you just cannot, like, if we sat down and we watched that fight together, there's no way you can convince me that Zalgas won that fight, man. You just can't. I mean, he didn't. I mean, most of the shit he was landing was off the glove, off the shoulder, man. Like, so Pink Floyd said, but what if I'm still inebriated when I rewatch the fight? Well, hopefully you saw things more clearly that time, right? Because the cleaner shots were clearly landed by Charles Johnson. So I had a 29-28 Johnson. I did not see that being a robbery. But more importantly than that, Zalgas, another one of these guys I was talking about earlier, where, like, he might not win UFC fights, but he's a tough out. Like Darion Weeks. When those dudes fought Darion Weeks, like Ian Gary, Like even Ian Gary didn't look like a phenom against Darion Weeks. Like for some reason, like Zagas and Darion Weeks, they don't win UFC fights, but they're a tough out. So he was a tough out. It was what it was. But here against O'Day, it's a completely different style fight, you know? Like I said, O'Day can bang, O'Day can crack, O'Day can knock dudes out, O'Day can brawl, but Charles can box for MMA. And that's the difference. And, you know, O'Day doesn't have much of an offensive takedown game. He doesn't have much of a defensive one either. If you try to take O'Day down, he's going to play off his back, which, you know, I love dudes with good guards, but I don't see him guard subbing Charles Johnson. I mean, we just saw Charles Johnson in there with Jimmy Flick, who Jimmy Flick's got one of the best guard sub games in MMA, and Charles was in his guard pounding him out, man. So I actually think the more we see Charles Johnson, the more he's going to get better. Like, he might actually like be one of the most underrated guys in this division. He's someone to look out for. And I love me some O'Day, and I've cashed him a few times against CJ Vergara, where first 2 rounds, we scraped by those first 2 rounds, but boy, did we barely hold on that last round, right? And I bet him there. I bet him against Jerome Rivera. Hey, you touched the worst guy in UFC history once and got him out of there. I appreciate it, but this ain't fun and games no more, man. Charles, like, if you get Charles out of there, hey, tip my cap to you, bro, because like Charles, it's hard to hit Charles clean, let alone rock him. It's hard to keep Charles down, let alone take him down. So I think Charles is on a different level than O'Day, period. So for that reason, I'm picking Charles, and I'm hoping I can get a nice line on Charles. I'm hoping more action comes in on O'Day, and I can get something, you know, I can get the number I want. So, yeah, and we can talk about the Molina and Zalgas fight later, but that fight's irrelevant here. The only fight I'm talking about now is Zalgas and Charles, and that was not a robbery. And by the way, Molina and Zalgas wasn't a robbery either, but that was closer. That was at least closer. Anyways, I got Charles Johnson to defeat O'Day Osbourne. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Joe Solecki, he's 12-3, taking on Carl Deaton III, who's 17-5. Currently, they got it. Joe Solecki minus 520. The comeback on Carl Deaton is plus 410. This is a great fight because I'm very familiar with both these guys, not just UFC, but prior to UFC. These guys were around my regional scene. You know, Joe Solecki was supposed to fight my boy Robert Hale. Good on him, you know, for turning that fight down. Very smart decision. You know, that's a terrible fight for you, Joe. So smart career move. And then Carl Deaton actually beat my boy Nate Williams twice. You know how I was talking about when Don Shainis fought Jack Jenkins like 2 weeks ago? I bet on Jack Jenkins. I was telling y'all how my boy Nate Williams beat Don Shainis. Now we got another fighter that he was in there with, but this guy, Carl Deaton, beat my boy Nate twice. And the first one was like a competitive fight that came down to like one scramble, but when they rematched and it went 5 rounds, Carl made incredible adjustments and put it on Nate, absolutely put it on him. So Carl, he's been 5 rounds already in his regional. This guy is about as experienced as you can get before coming into the UFC, right? So like with Carl, I'd be shocked if there were like debut nerves or, you know, this guy went out there and laid an egg or something like that. Like I expect Carl, and speaking of Carl's background, like y'all see the hair and stuff like that. The dude, I'm pretty damn sure he's like Native American. He's like part of a tribe. Like he's a real badass dude. Like he's a real prideful individual. He's intense. He comes to fight. I like Carl Deaton. Where I think that Carl Deaton is going to have issues at the UFC level is that he's not the most athletic guy. Like he can grapple, but like, you know, a more credentialed wrestler will take him down. And he's not the fastest guy standing either. But like, again, he's just that solid grizzly vet where like, if you're not quite experienced enough, if you're like one of these random ass 5-0 guys coming into the UFC and you're taking on Carl Deaton, Carl's going to vet less than you. That's just the bottom line. But here against Solecki, a guy who does have experience, a guy who, you know, fought a tough regional scene, came into the UFC, has been having success, been in there with some studs. I mean, Joe's probably going to get these takedowns here. Also, when you consider Joe's level of jiu-jitsu, it's up there. It's very high level jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's submitted some real guys in pure jiu-jitsu. But stand-up wise, Joe has been getting better, but you know, Joe's chin has always been a bit suspect. You know, he did get knocked dead by Nicholas Mata. Back to my boy Robert Hale. My boy Robert Hale knocked out Nicholas Mata, and Nicholas Mata knocked out Joe Solecki. So I'm just very familiar with these guys. I'm going to go Solecki, but I don't, when you talk minus 520, that's what I'd line Joe Solecki against some random 5-0 newcomer. Like, let's take him down one time, take his back, and the fight's going to be over shortly after. Not saying he can't tap out Carl because Joe's jiu-jitsu is that good, but like, Carl's a tough out, man. Carl is not just a dude that lays down for anybody. Carl's going to come out here and, he might not win this fight, but I still think he can go 3 hard rounds and, have some moments here and there, right? So I'm going to go Joe Solecki via unanimous decision, but, Deaton's a tough dude. Deaton paid his dues. Like, you see these guys that come into the UFC all the time that just don't fucking belong. It's like, the hell is this guy doing in the UFC, right? Like, last week we were talking about that co-main event between Zach Pauga and Jordan Wright. We were talking about that featured bout between Pogues and Parisian. Even early on some of these cards, like some of these random ass guys, like just they didn't pay their dues. They don't belong. Like, they still need some more seasoning. That's not the case with Deaton. Deaton is a finished product and he's solid. It's just that he's not the most athletic. He's just a tough, grizzly, intense vet. So I think it's going to be hard to finish him, but I do think Solecki wins the fight. Look, I'm talking about a minus 520 favorite, but the reason that I'm going on a little bit longer than usual is because, like I said, when I talk about a minus 520 favorite, I want that one takedown and the fight's over shortly after. I want go out there and embarrass this guy. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen. It's just from what I've seen from Deaton, he's a tough cookie, man. The guy comes to fight, so I respect him. So I'm going to go Solecki via decision. Now, next up, also in the lightweight division, we got the debut of Nurullo Aliev. He's 8-0. He's actually representing Tajikistan. He's not Russian. He's Tajiki. He's taking on Rafael Alves, who's 20-11. Currently, they got it Nurullo Aliev minus 180. The comeback on Rafael Alves is plus 155. So Nurullo is not Russian, but he fights like a Russian, so you guys already know what his game is. I mean, relentless grappling on top, nasty ground and pound on the feet, not much volume, but does just enough to make things count. Just fights like your typical Russian. Rafael Alves is a wild card, man, because Rafael Alves is one of the most athletic dudes in the division. I mean, you see this dude dancing on his walk to the octagon. You saw that move in round 3. He did that get up he had against Ismagulov where he did like a breakdance move. Rafael's ridiculous, man. Like, Rafael can do some shit that other guys can't do, athletically speaking. And also, Rafael's got a nasty guillotine choke. He has got a ridiculous guillotine choke. He's also got one-punch knockout power, too. And he's been in there with tough guys in his UFC run. It's all been tough fights. I mean, Ismagulov, DeCasey, Dober. Like, that's quite a 3-fight run to kick things off, right? So here against Nurullo, Marcus brought up a good point. Marcus said gathering intel and passing on this one. And I honestly think that that's a great take because it's like Nurullo isn't that experienced. We haven't seen Nurullo against anyone good. It's just that we hold Russians in high regard. Like last week, thank God I didn't bet that 23-0 Russian, but I pure picked him thinking that like, hey, I've seen Russians come in here with padded records before and do amazing. And, that dude did good for a round. And then, the 3-year layoff showed itself, right? Nurullo's not coming off a 3-year layoff, but he's also got like less than half the experience of that other guy. The thing about it is this: Rafael Alves is an amazing hammer. When Rafael Alves, I mean, you give this guy your neck, he's taking it home. You stand and bang, you're a little bit too slow for him, he's knocking you out. But if you can stand up to him, take him down, zap that energy. That's where I do think that you can break a guy like Rafael Alves. So pure pick, I'm going to go Nurullo Aliev, but, based off lessons I've learned in the past, it's better to sometimes let these debutants do their thing. You take the intel like my boy Marcus was talking about, and you pass. You just sit back and see where they're at. And I've asked some people around the scene that are connected to the Russians, like what they think about Nurullo, and they didn't really have much of a response to me. They were like, yeah, I've seen him around the crew, but I haven't really seen him train before. So I didn't get that inside information that I wanted on Nurullo. But I do tend to pick guys that fight like Russians because long-term it's a profitable angle. But it's just, look, if Nurullo happens to be a fraud, Rafael is very athletic. Rafael is explosive. Rafael can do things other guys can't do. So, you can't act surprised. But I'm going to go Nurullo, take this guy down, zap his energy, get that ground and pound going, grind him out. So I'm going to go Nurullo for the win. Now, next up, in the bantamweight division, everybody do me a huge favor. Smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. In the bantamweight division, we got Hailey Cowan. She's 7-2, taking on Ailin Perez, who's 7-2. So they're both 7-2. Currently, they got it. Honestly, they're both 7-2, but Perez is really 8-1 because in one of those losses, she got disqualified, but she beat the shit out of that girl. And it was actually Tamiris Vidal who got like a flying knee knockout in the UFC. So in my eyes, Perez has actually beat someone with a UFC win, right? So yeah, they got it. Hailey -130, Ailin +110. So basically, I think that Ailin Perez made an absolute fool of herself last time out, man. Like, it's one thing to have your gimmick with the twerking. Hey, I ain't hating, or am I hating, right? There's two twerkers on this card. Who's the better twerker, Ailin Perez or Jordan Leavitt? I'm curious to see Nate Marquardt's response. If you had to ask Nate Marquardt, hey, Nate, who do you genuinely think is a better twerker between Jordan Leavitt and Ailin Perez? What do you think? And, he'd have to put the veil over his eyes and pull out his Bible. But look, bottom line, I think that Ailin Perez made an absolute fool of herself last time. Reason being this, look, going into the face-off, okay, twerk, do your thing, haha, all fun and games. But when you get absolutely embarrassed in your debut the way she got embarrassed, I'm talking, thrown around. You're known for being a physical grappler. You're getting thrown around. You're getting choked out the whole bit. And then you're twerking after that. And then you're talking about how you're the best in the division. And like, girl, it'd be one thing if you were talking like that before the Egger fight, but you're still talking like that after the Egger fight. Like, she is a stunt waiting to happen. Now, to give her credit, she did move to MMA Masters in Florida. So at least she got out of Argentina where, look, I love Argentina, man. If you've ever dated an Argentinian woman, you already know what time it is, bro. Like, you ain't winning an argument there. I'll tell you that right now. But they're different, right? In every way. But when it comes to fighting, man, yeah, she's going to be a stubborn chick, but she's her own worst enemy, man. I mean, like, you see the stuff she's posting, man. I mean, it's like, enough is enough, right? If you're this undefeated fighter talking that big game, that's one thing. Who was I talking about like last week where like this fighter is like not even on a win streak and they're talking big, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you only talk like that, like, oh, Alexander Hernandez, and then he actually went out there and won. But Alex was humble last week, so props to him, and thank God I didn't bet Jim. Thank you, everybody, for not letting me get the number I wanted on Jim's. I gotta give you guys a lot of credit, because if I had gotten the number I wanted on Jim, I would have bet him, but I didn't. So thank you guys very much. Back to this. Look, Hailey Cowan, I forgot where I heard this. I heard someone say she's like a dollar store Holly Holm, and I can totally see it. She literally is a preacher's daughter. She's a nice Christian girl, goes in there, and Holly Holm's known for her kickboxing. But if you actually watch Holly Holm's fights, most of them take place in the clinch, which is where most of Hailey Cowan's fights take place. Has that nice wizard kick, is a little bit heavy on top. Not quite convinced she won her Contender Series fight, but it was against kind of a tough opponent, so maybe it was just a stylistic thing. And I think going forward, she can be better. She just got to be careful because she gives up a lot of bad positions. And, she paid for it a couple fights ago when she got choked out by a random. She gave up that exact position on her Contender Series fight, but she was able to actually survive it this time. And with Ailin, on her regional, like, she was known for being very physical and just having no stand-up whatsoever, but she was able to grapple every single person she fought on like gym mats and tap them out. Hey, I ain't hating, man. It's cool that Argentina's even throwing fights together. So I respect it. Here, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to go Hailey Cowan via decision because I do think she has more potential, but like, can I sit here and act surprised if she gets out grappled, which I've seen happen before. I've seen her get submitted before. No, I cannot, but she seems more focused. She seems more serious. For that reason, I'll pick her, but just a pick, not a bet. My pick is Hailey Cowan. Now, last but not least, in the bantamweight division, we got Jose Johnson. He's 15-7, taking on Garrett Armfield, who's 8-3. Currently, they got it. Garrett Armfield minus 150. The comeback on Jose Johnson is plus 135. This is a tough one because, firstly, do y'all know what Jose Johnson's amateur record is? Let me tell y'all real quick. And what it says on Tapology is not correct. Okay, on Tapology, let me see what it says on Tapology. So on Tapology, it says he's like, he was like what 24-13 as an amateur, or 24-12. I heard an interview with him. He said he was 68-12 as an amateur. So this dude has been fighting a long, long time. And if you hear his story, it's very, very inspirational. He's a guy that's overcome a lot. He is truly the definition of paying your dues because, like, okay, so I mentioned the 68-12 amateur record, but who did he fight as an amateur? This dude was out there fighting dudes that are on this fucking card as an amateur. He fought Charles Johnson as an amateur. Like, that is pretty damn dope, man. That is pretty fucking dope. Like, hey, respect it, man. You've paid your dues, kid. You crushed the grapes. Now we drink the wine, right? You know, look, Garrett Armfield, I like him. He's a short, stocky, you know, if you're not quite on Garrett Armfield's level, man, he can start you in the first round. He can take you down. He's got heavy top control. He can submit guys. I mean, I like the kid. This is an interesting fight because Jose is a lot more experienced, but Jose also loves to not stuff takedowns, also loves to get in bad positions. But credit to Jose, he's gotten a lot better about, you know, fighting out of those bad spots. He's still going to give up the bad spots. He's still going to give up takedowns, gives up his back, but he's gotten better about, you know, defending submissions, reversing position, and on the feet, he's very dangerous. You know, he's extremely long for bantamweight. You don't see bantamweights this long. We're talking 6 foot, you know, 6'1" versus 5'6", right? So it is imperative for Garrett Armfield to get this fight to the mat ASAP. And Garrett Armfield, to his credit, man, he's been training at Sanford MMA, or Killcliff now is what they're called. And Garrett Armfield is actually bringing Ronnie Lawrence with him to corner him. Ronnie Lawrence actually fought both these guys, beat both these guys. But Garrett is actually training with Ronnie now. He's gonna have Ronnie in his corner. You know, Ronnie beat Jose on Contenders, so that's cool. You got a good look there. Yeah, I'm not sure because it's like Jose Johnson, extremely dangerous, and you bang with this guy for enough time. Like, unless you got that one hitter quitter like Manny Martinez, he's probably gonna light you the fuck up. His kicking game is nasty. He fights behind his jab, big knees. You know, you start to shoot some sloppy takedowns on him. Like, don't be surprised if there's a long man guillotine waiting for you now that, especially now that he's been, you know, tightening up. I say tightening up some parts of his ground game, but it's not that he's been tightening. Like, let's make a clarification here. He's still going to get taken down, Jose Johnson, but he's probably a little bit less likely to get submitted than he would have been back in the day. And he's getting better out of scrambling out of bad spots. So I do think Garrett Armfield is going to get takedowns here. What happens after those takedowns? That's where it's like, that's where I'm not sure. That's like where the big, like, kind of like with Brendan Allen and Muniz. We know Muniz is going to take him down, but what happens after that? We know Garrett Armfield is going to take down Johnson, but what happens after that? I'm not sure. If it's like the Contender Series fight, well, Jose Johnson can scramble back up to his feet, reverse some positions, you know, get some dominant spots of his own. You know, if it's not like that, he can possibly get laid on, you know. So I don't know. I don't know. And usually when I don't know, I take the dog, and I will take the dog, but it's tough to bet on the dog here. Like, on principle, if your pure pick is a dog, you should bet the dog just on principle. The thing is, the way he loses this fight is like the most frustrating way to lose a bet, period, which is when your guy gets taken down, can't do shit, can't get back up, and you're like, oh my fucking God, like, seriously? Like, really? Like, this is happening? Like, aren't we past this over 20 fights into our career? So that's the way we lose this bet. But the way you'd win is, you know, reverses a position, gets back up, starts to make Garrett Armfield a little tired, and then the takedowns come, you know, the entries come from a little further away. They come a little slower. You start lighting them up a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go Jose Johnson, but yeah, usually, like I said, usually when I pure pick a dog, I'll bet the dog too. It's just, I know the way he loses this fight is the most terrible way to lose a bet. Like, I'd rather my guy get starched in the first minute, you know, than get grinded out for 3 rounds and not even look like he's doing anything. You know, like, wow, it's like, wow, you bet on that guy because you got caught early. You can just be like, hey, he got caught early. We don't know what would have happened if the fight would have got extended, right? Even though I'm not an excuse maker, but that's just kind of a lot of people's mindset. Like, you don't know what would have happened. Whereas this one, I can see that extended fight where he loses, and those are the worst. Though that's where there's like an error in your handicapping when you bet a guy and he just gets laid on for 3 straight rounds. Yeah, so I'm gonna pick Jose, but not confidently. But anyways, we'll talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. You know, I haven't bet anything yet on this card. The only things that I was interested in betting, I want the Charles Johnson line to get better, and I want to bet that, and then I want to fade the grown man that twerks too. You know, I want to bet on the Carlos Diego black belt against a grown man that twerks. Yeah, exactly. Ghost Gardner said the 15 minutes screaming of "get up" here, right? Like, exactly. I'm not trying to deal with that bullshit. I'm really not. All right. Let's talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. Then I'm down to answer anything y'all got for me, and then I'm gonna get out of here. So, the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 70. I mean, honestly, guys, you know what it is. It's the main event. I mean, like, listen, I'm not trying to be lame and pick a main event and act like lazy, like I don't know the other fights, but like, I already told y'all, Nikita Krylov has 27 finishes and 29 fights. Excuse me, 27 finishes and 29 wins. Ryan Spann has 18 finishes and 21 wins. Like, this is an all violence main event. This is an all-star attraction for violence. If you like violence, you like Nikita Krylov. And if you love violence, you like Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann. I mean, for these guys to make the crowd boo, it would have to be the most uncharacteristic performance that we've ever seen on either side. Like, even if one guy's trying to be boring, the other guy's not. For both guys to fight boring here would be a shock to the system, and it's beautiful to see Nikita Krylov in a UFC main event. You know, things you love to see, Nikita Krylov in a UFC main event. So for that reason, Krylov versus Spann is my fight to watch. A fighter to watch is Charles Johnson, man. I mean, I think I explained why earlier. Like, this guy's coming into the UFC as a champion in another organization, and he fights like a champion. I mean, got up from every single takedown against Mokaev, even attacked Mokaev with a nasty submission. That guillotine, that power guillotine, man, I'm telling you, he's going to get some other people with that. I love how clean his striking is. I love how hard it is to hit this guy. And I like his willingness to fight, man. I mean, he wants to be the most active flyweight on the roster. I heard an interview with him. He said he wants to fight 6 times this year. Like, hey, like, I like this guy. It's like, remember in Scarface when Tony Montana met Lopez for the first time, right? They just killed Rebenga. They bring him the coke, they bring him the money, and you know, Lopez, like, you know, he was telling him thank you, you know, about that Rebenga hit and this and that. And Tony's like, you know, I kill a communist for fun. That was fun. And then Lopez is like, that was fun. That was fun. You know, look at this guy, right? Like, that's how I feel about Charles Johnson. Oh, you want 6 fights? All right, we're dealing with a serious guy here. So Charles Johnson is my fighter to watch. All right. Anyways, I should have given y'all a faster, better explanation of the Scarface example, but next time. Anyways, leave me your questions, your comments. I'm gonna get to those now, and then I'm gonna get out of here. My boy Alex said, another week, another breakdown. This is correct. This is correct. And we're starting to get a little momentum on our side. Blanchfield and Jack Jenkins back to back now. Now we just got to go on a little streak here. My boy Dominic said he's back at it like a crack addict. He also said those Aaron haters are awfully quiet. They sure are, aren't they? Hey, how about my girl Aaron on the feet too? Let's not even talk about that Mata Leon rear naked choke. Let's talk about my girl Blanchfield on the feet. You know what I'm saying? Leon Goat said, man, is it that cold at your place? Bro, ATL, they might call it hot Atlanta, but it is unpredictable Atlanta, because one day it's 70 degrees, the next day it's minus 70, right? So it's yeah, it's unpredictable here, but I'm very, very comfy with what I'm wearing. Thank you for asking. Got Rob. What's up, Rob? What's up, Clint? What's up, Equinomus? What up, bro? Let's see what else y'all got. A lot of y'all got Krylov. Okay, I understand that. Lance said, am I cold? Just my heart, my boy. Just my heart. Doughboy Nasty says Dan has that casting couch behind him. Yeah, we're gonna have gonna have to make some see what kind of prospects we got this weekend lined up, you know what I'm saying, and take it from there, and hopefully not leave the camera on, right? Let's see. Oh yeah, Sean V said horrible narrative to actually believe that Ryan Spann is just now taking training seriously. I agree. It's just talk is cheap, you know what I'm saying, bro? It's just like people believing that Max Holloway did a champ camp on a Zoom call. Yeah, okay. I believe you, but my Tommy gun don't, you know? Jack said Krylov is a much better fighter, but I never bet against Safe Saud. He's an unreal cornerman. Yeah. And the line, I don't think there's much value on the Krylov line. I'm good on that. But Sean said Coach Safe isn't going to help Spann's durability or gas tank. This is true. Coach Safe cannot fight for him. Very, very true. Preston says fight IQ or ego. I don't know what it is, but Ailin 100% thinks he can submit Muniz. If he fights that way, it's not going to look good. But if he comes in here with the right game plan, he's a live dog. He said Brendan has that Jimmy Crute brain. Oh man. Jack said Ailin is tempting at plus 200, but his takedown defense is terrible. You got to rely on him to out scramble Muniz. Muniz is good at getting the back. All factual. For Brendan Ailin to win, he has to make Muniz work to the point where Muniz is fatigued, where the takedowns are no longer there. Brendan Ailin does have an advantage standing. Let's see. Dirty Reg said the line is where none of us should play it at all. Tatiana wins though, probably. I mean, she's minus 750. Yeah, she better win, right? Let's see. You got anything else for me? If not, I'm getting out of here. Some stuff. Joe concurs that Trevor is a peak fade going forward. Yes, sir. Maybe not this weekend, but soon. But maybe this weekend. You never know. Hold on. There's one thing I wanted to read. Someone asking me about how do I not back twerkers? I'm from Atlanta. Hold on. Let me find that comment. Anyways, here we go. Dom said, living in Atlanta, I thought you'd be a pro twerk. I am pro twerk, just not when it comes to someone I'm trying to bet on. I'm pro twerk when I go to Magic City. I'm pro twerk when we're talking about the casting couch. I'm not pro twerk when we're talking about someone that I'm putting my hard-earned money on to go win a fight. Put my hard-earned money on to shake your ass, hey, all good. But to win a UFC fight, nah, dog. I'm good on that. You know what I mean? My boy Random Marco says, I was late to the party. Why aren't you in on the grown man that twerks fade already? Do you think we'll get an even better line? I mean, the line got better as we were recording the show. It went from minus 115 to minus 106. We don't force bets. We try to get the best line possible at all times. Like I said last week with Hernandez and Miller, it's fun to talk all that shit about Hernandez, but you guys got to understand, talk is cheap. Like at the end of the day, all that matters is the line. Now, I would have made a losing bet if I got the plus 2 something on Miller I wanted. But fact of the matter is I never got that line, so I never made that bet and I never lost. So the line is the most important thing at the end of the day. You know, it's fun to come on here and talk about a twerker, talk about a pocket thesaurus, talk about this, talk about a stunt pull or whatever. All that's fun to talk about, but there's nothing fun about losing money. There's nothing fun about getting the worst of the line, okay? So at the end of the day, you know, you got to be able to separate the commentary, the jokes, the talk with like actually being serious, getting the best number possible, and, you know, exercising proper money management, which I still pride myself on. I didn't let any emotions towards Hernandez influence how I bet. Absolutely not. Backstabber. Damn, what a name, bro. He said, what line would you set for a flyweight bout between Clayton Carpenter and Tatsuro Taira? I'd make Taira minus 500. And I like Clayton. It's nothing against him. It's just I think Taira is ahead of him right now. My boy the Stub Lord said Dan has a knack for spotting up and coming champs. I appreciate that. Dom said, Dan, you've been in on the new South Park season? I have not, but I love me some South Park. I got some of the old school DVDs in my collection. Always a fan. He also says he loves the shade being thrown at Marquardt. And he brought it upon himself, man. I mean, come on, bro. I can go on about that. Oh, okay, Anton. Okay, Andon. He said my boy Mike Puffy Borden is the greatest American drummer of all time. Mike Borden, he plays with Faith No More, one of my favorite bands. So I don't think he's the best rock drummer of all time. I think he's an amazing rock drummer, though. But I will say this, the singer of that band, Mike Patton, he's the best rock singer of all time. I mean, if you listen to like Incubus, like Brandon Boyd, guess who Brandon Boyd's biggest influence is? Like, guess who all these guys' biggest influence is? Mike Patton. He's the best rock singer of all time. If you know, you know. SC said, what about Vanessa Demopoulos? You know, we got love for my girl Vanessa. Keith Moon, you know, you got to give a shout out to my boy Keith Moon, the legend. Hey, my brother plays in a heavy metal band called Daath. It's Daath, and they just dropped a new track today called No Rest, No End, and it's like the best metal song I've ever heard in my life. So y'all should check that out. It's fucking awesome shit. So check out my brother's band Daath, Daath. Just dropped their new track today. It's out everywhere. It's called No Rest, No End. It's so fucking heavy, so badass. Drums, the guitar solos, vocals, everything, the songwriting. If you like good heavy metal or good hard rock, you will like this. So check it out. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for all the support y'all have shown me. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. After this is over, leave me a comment. Feel free to share, feel free to tweet, whatever. I truly appreciate all the help y'all have given me, all the love. It means a lot to me. It truly does. And let's have some fun Saturday night. Let's go out there, get another win, and let's keep this momentum going. You know, Aaron Blanchfield was a big win for us, but that's in the past now. It's time to move forward. So thank you guys again very, very much for everything. I truly appreciate it. Enjoy the Krylov versus Spann all violence main event. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.